Hello, gorgeous human beings of the Alpha to Alpha program. There's quite a lot of glare in my glass and I pick these off. So today is an interesting day. I'm seeing a lot of you are actually joining live for the first time. So if you're here live for the first time in this program, I'm very excited. Now, today is an interesting day because we're going to move into alpha communication. This is a very important part of the program. Very super important part of the program. And of course, on Alpha Communications Day, I'm having a whole day. And so I want to tell you about this because I think it's important to remember that the information you're going to learn is going to be so much easier for you to tap into on the days where you're feeling like a badass, on the days where you're like, I've got this. Those days you'll be like, I remember step by step, my steps of communication. It's going to be on the days where you're like, super emotional and you're trying to remember all the steps and not do them in a genuine way. Those are going to be the hardest days. And so one thing I want to remind you is that you're allowed to take space and time before you have an alpha communication with someone. You're allowed to take a minute and say, look, the truth is our relationship really matters to you. I want to figure out exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it. Can you just give me some space and time to feel what I'm feeling? And I feel like I'm a mess right now. Give me a second and I'm going to get back to you. And I feel like we're allowed to say that. And often we don't give ourselves that permission because we feel like we need to look strong and we feel like we need to look put together because we're the boss. But I want to remind you of something. It's equal power, but different. And what that means is what it takes to be an employee is something I will never understand. I'm a terrible employee, like literally the worst. I'm no good. And when I see someone be good at this, I'm like, you are a godsend and you are incredible. And I don't know how you do what you do because I cannot be that. I can't. And so although a million times a day, I wonder how the heck I do what I'm doing now. And although a million times a day, I think to myself, nobody understands me. And you guys don't understand the kind of pressure I'm under. True that. And also, I don't understand nothing about the way they feel as employees either. And so you're going to realize that in every single relationship you've got in your life, you've got to be able to recognize that when you feel like nobody gets you, everybody feels that. Like it's impossible that only one person would feel that in the world. And being in a group of powerful people who actually get to look at each other and go, yeah, I feel it too. We've got to recognize if I feel it and you feel it, they feel it, which means we can't really pull that card, although we really want to. But what helps us is to have community where we can come together and we can say, I just need to get some support here because I'm feeling really frustrated and this is what's happening. And a bunch of people who actually have the same kind of problem as you, where they're holding an entire company, or they've got something going on with their family, or they've got something going on with a partner, or they've got something going on with their kid. Like you find communities where you can express yourself and you share the thing and you get supported by people who are like, oh, I understand you. But the fact is everyone needs a community because everybody's got a thing that most people don't understand. And so why alpha communication is so important is because it sets the context of like, I really value both of us, which often doesn't come through in communication when we're having a terrible time. It usually is, I have a problem. My problem's more important than you. Let me tell you what my problem is and now you deal with it. And if you've ever received a conversation that felt insulting, that's probably exactly how it was delivered to you. Like, hello, I have a problem. You're the problem. Let me explain to you how you're the problem. Also fix it now. And you're like, ah. And so what we know is in leadership, in order to actually get somewhere, there has to be mutual respect. Because what we're really wanting from people is not just accept my power and be quiet. What we're wanting from people is continue to lead yourself, and let's have a conversation about how to pivot in a direction we're both happy with, because that's the ideal goal in leadership. And so one of the most important things I have found is to be really transparent with the people I lead about who I am. And so we've talked about this a few times during the program, but if you're the boss and you have some employees that you're going to be leading, I think it is important for you to describe your character to them as honestly and as truthfully as possible right from the beginning. And so that might be something like, I am a very emotional person, but I'm okay. I could literally have something important to tell you and it'll make me cry, but like, I'm fine. It's just part of the way I am and I can't really fix it. It's just the way I am. So if I bring anything to you and I cry, please don't freak out about it. It's part of who I am. Or to say, I'm a highly emotional person and that works so well for us in the workplace because I drive us and I motivate us. And also sometimes I get overwhelmed. And so if you can just have my back in those days, I'd really appreciate it. You know, it's the way that I am. Do you have anything you'd like to share with me about the way that you are? Just so this goes better for us. You may have something where you say, I sometimes need space. If something happens and I realize that I'm overwhelmed and I've got to deal with something, I care about our relationship a lot. And so instead of blowing up and just saying what I want to say in the moment, I'll often need to just leave, walk, breathe, and I'll come back to you later. That's just the best thing for us. So if you ever watch me walk away during a heated moment, just know it's for the best of all of us and I'm going to come back. Is there anything you'd like to share with me about your patterns or something like that? If you can just matter-of-factly invite people in what you're most afraid they're about to find out, you're going to see that it opens just a calmness in the situation. Because the first time someone watches you behave in a way that they wouldn't expect you to behave, it's a shocking moment for everybody. And we often feel like we need to apologize for who we are instead of just telling people who we are. So I like to tell people who we are. I tell the people I work with, I am very emotional. They know. And I come in sometimes and I'm like, okay, I am a whole mess. So I need to portal drop, or I need to turn the microphone off. I need to just like silence. I'm going to get myself together. And then, okay, send me vibes. Like I need the vibes. And they're like, okay, we've got you. But like, they know I'm emotional. I would never be like, no, I'm totally put together. You know, these things never affect me. Let's go, because it's not true. And if I want to actually lead people and I want them to feel comfortable telling me how they feel and I'm perfect, it's always going to be odd. So ever since I've been very honest, and this is not an apologetic thing, and it's also not a prefacing why I'm allowed to be the way that I am. It's just, I know my fundamental behavior and I want to let you in on me, and also give me the opportunity for you to let me in on you. It creates a connection. It's not an excuse. It's also not an apology. It's like, this is where we are. And so in my team, it's so important that my people can talk to me. And when they don't, I feel there's a problem immediately. I'm sure you guys can relate to this in your life. If there's a person that's close to you that's not talking when there's something wrong, it is much worse than if they were talking. You can feel it. And especially when you say like, is everything okay? And they're like, yeah. You lie. No, I'm good. You lie again. No, I'm fine. I swear. Okay, now I'm getting mad. You know, what's wrong? Just tell me what's wrong, because or else that's it. It's like a heavy energy and then everything's weird. So what I always prefer with the people in my world is to have conversations, even though they're vulnerable, even though sometimes they get real edgy. Like I will get the edgy, sassy version of people sometimes. I prefer that version than the silenced version, because we cannot move anything when I don't know what's going on. Now, for that, you recognize you've asked for it. You realize you've asked people to be honest with you. You've asked people to talk to you. And so you open yourself up for communication. This whole program is going to matter in how you receive that. Because when a person comes to you angry, they may appear to you like as if they think they're superior to you, and they're not. You might have clients actually be really rude to you when they tell you how they feel, because they haven't yet embodied equal power, but different. And so any moment of superiority, feeling of inferiority becomes, I have to try to become superior, which is super triggering, because then you're like, whoa. If you have an employee who's feeling a feeling of inferiority, they'll try to take a feeling of superiority in that moment. And you're like, whoa. You've got to be able to hold people's patterns in order to have an effective alpha communication, because not everyone is taking this course. So why this is so difficult is to remember you are going to come out of this course like, I know how to lead leaders. And then you're going to speak to leaders and they're going to be like, I have not yet comprehended the fact that I'm a leader and I'm messing it all up. You'll be like, this is not the way I expected you to respond. I'm all enlightened. You should have an enlightened response. That doesn't always happen. I found that this method of communication has really changed the game for me in so many different instances in my life. I have saved friendships over this. I have literally turned situations around in hotels, travel experiences, restaurants. There's not one place on earth that this hasn't worked, this communication method. But what's important is two things. Number one, when I have it, I'm in equal power, but different kind of mode. If I come from an inferiority or superiority energy, if I show up with a paradox, it's not going to work. So if I try to do this conversation with a little bit of a sassy edge, it lands 0. If I try to use this conversation with this little bit of a victim thing, doesn't land. Equal power conversation. So you've got to get yourself into this state first, no matter what you got to do in your head. So last time I asked you if you could take some time and really look at where you sometimes get mad at people or, feel like they're maybe acting in a way where it makes you feel like either they're superior or they're inferior. And then it changes your communication with them, like to notice that. And how can you bring them back to equal power? Did you try to do this? Have you worked on that? And have you managed to see where your mind will consciously struggle to let you be on equal playing grounds with people? Like you'll be like, okay, I guess the way that we're equal is, don't like this, but yes, you're right. Okay, yes, okay. Like, were you able to get there? So we want to do this before we have the communication, because if you can only imagine anyone who wants to fix anything with you, if you can imagine anyone who cares about you in your business, cares about you in your friendship, cares about you and your work, cares about you in your partnership, cares about you in anything whatsoever. If they care about you and they deliver a conversation that makes you feel like crap, even if the words are good, will it help? No. So the energy has to be, I care about you, I value you, you matter, we're equal power, this matters to me, this conversation matters to me. That energy really matters. And so one thing that I'll say before we jump into the communication pattern is that this world right now is in a very quick to cancel kind of mood. And in a very quick to cancel kind of mood, we tend to start most conversations like we'd be willing to fire people, we'd be willing to break up, we'd be willing to move out, we'd be willing to sue, we'd be willing to leave, we'd be willing to slander. And we lead with that. A lot of people lead with that when they're angry. Like, the energy is, I'm prepared to leave right now. And so why this doesn't work is people want to protect their hearts from losing you the second they feel that from you. And if they don't have the confidence to think they can turn this around, which is most people on earth don't have the confidence to think they can turn things around for a powerful person who's decided they're mad. The number one defense mechanism is to not care that you leave. So if you present yourself like you don't care about the relationship and you're very eager to leave, the number one defense mechanism is just, well, then leave. And I don't care. And this is how most people start important conversations. This is why discussions, historically, you might say, like, I have very rarely been able to heal anything in a conversation. That really hasn't been the thing for me. It hasn't really helped. That's not been the thing. And the reason is because you've got to do a lot of the inner work before the conversation even starts. The conversation doesn't change the game. The conversation's the gateway. The conversation's the bridge between what you've healed and what you want to make right. And so these communications, they don't really make sense if you don't care about the relationship. You're going to realize as I break it down that if you really don't care about someone, it matters pretty much nothing to put this amount of effort into a conversation. On the flip side, you're also going to recognize that if what you're mad about is kind of unreasonable, this conversation is really intense for a silly thing. And you might be like, so let's say I want to have a conversation with my partner and the socks on the floor. Would I have to say all the steps in alpha communication? And I think in those moments when you imagine yourself running a trivial thing that annoys you through such an important communication, it might make you giggle to realize how mad you get about things. You might be like, for the love of all things, is it really the socks or is it something else? Because if I try to make it about the socks, I sound a little bit intense. Is it really the socks or is it something more than the socks? Because usually you'll find by the time you're that heated about something so trivial, it's usually not about the socks. So then you get to have some deeper work. What am I really feeling? It's never about the socks. So you're right, Michael. So what is it that it's really about? How is it that I'm really feeling? Maybe I'm not ready to have a conversation about this. Maybe I need to explore myself a little bit more. These are all really intelligent things to think about when you're emotional that we really haven't been taught to think about. We usually are like, I'm mad, I got to tell somebody about it. So now we're going to change that a little bit. And you're going to notice how much less you nag and how much more you consider what you actually want, what the actual reason of talking is. Is it just because you can, because you've got the power and you want to use it? And do you actually care about this relationship? And when you think of these things, it actually changes a lot of how much you communicate, why you communicate, and how you communicate. So I've actually given you all the steps to alpha communication through separate ways inside of this program, and I'm going to string them together for you here. It's an acronym, ALPHA, alpha communication. And so the first A in alpha communication is acknowledge the good. A, acknowledge the good. Then L is long-term vision. Long-term vision. I'm going to explain all these in a second. P is the problem. H is happiness for both. And the last A is ask for what you want. So acknowledge the good, long-term vision, problem, happiness for both, ask for what you want. This is alpha communication. So we're going to start with the end. We're going to go backwards. I love to prepare an alpha communication backwards. If you start going from the beginning to the end, you're going to encounter an issue is that when you try to acknowledge the good while you're mad, you're going to have a very hard time. You'll be like, there is no good. That's the whole reason I'm having this conversation. Or you're going to give some crappy thing like, okay, so I love you and everything, but you're going to give like the most thing. So we don't want to start with acknowledge the good. You're going to do some processing before you get to the point where you have an idea of what you want to say. So we're going to start with ask for what you want. And the reason we're going to start with this is because if you do not know the answer to this question, you're not ready to have a conversation. This is the number one issue in conflict, is people who just give people their problem, have no solution to offer. And what do we hear? We hear, well, what do you want me to do? What do you expect me to do? I don't know what you want from me. These are all things that are responses to an incomplete communication. When you say to someone, I just would like to tell you how you are inadequate because I can, and it will make me feel far more happy about this situation than if I need to punish you in secret. So I would like to just sit you down, tell you how you bug me, and have you be quiet because I'm the boss. And when I'm done, I'll walk away in a huff. You will sit there puzzled, and I expect an apology about something you barely understand and a solution that better be adequate so we can continue as if nothing ever happened. So we're not going to be doing this anymore because we're leaders. So the first thing is ask for what you want. And if you can't get there, you're not ready for the communication. So if you can think of, we've talked about a few conflicts that we've brought in. We've coached a couple of people through this. One person we brought on was Cassandra, and she was going to have this conversation with a person where she's done mentorship. She completed her agreement. Now she's on a per month basis with the agreement. What she wants is to complete the agreement. It's pretty clear. I'm going to have a conversation with you. And at the end of this conversation with you, I want to complete our agreement. I know exactly where I'm going with this, right? We also had a conversation where it was, I think it's because my partner doesn't really follow through on things, when in fact, when we did a little more digging, it was like, I don't think that's it exactly. There's something more than that. There's maybe a power struggle in the relationship. We've got to keep searching. That's not quite it. So when you don't know what you want, when you're just upset, when you get to the A part of the end, the ask for what you want, you won't know what you want. And that is the number one guiding light to say, you're not ready to talk about this. You've actually got to look at this. We don't like to do that. We prefer to like get the anger out and just fight a bit and then we feel better. But that really damages relationships. So as much as possible, if we don't do that, it's better for everybody. So what do I want? What do I want? And if all you want is to be heard without any kind of solution, like let's say you want to have a conversation with someone and you just want them to listen, then when it's the part where ask for what you want, you will say, now this is going to be a very odd request because I know I've shared all of this with you, but what I actually want is just for us to sit next to each other. You hold my hand, we put a movie on and you just sit with me. I don't want you to try to fix it. That would be good. But if that's the kind of thing you're really going to say, that you don't want them to speak, this is by a lot of experience with a lot of clients, this is the only time where you're going to give that caveat before you start. So instead of an alpha communication, it's going to be a alpha communication, because you're going to have to tell them before you start, before I begin, I would like to inform you that I'm going to have a full-blown conversation with you in which I require absolutely no response. I'm actually explaining all the things to you because I want to, but if you try to help me, I already know it will not work. The purpose of this entire communication is for me to tell you how I feel, and at the end, I'll tell you what I need, but I really don't want you to help me. Preface it, if that's part of what you want, because if not, people will interrupt you throughout the conversation. You won't get further than the problem. The minute the problem comes out, the person will be like, I have a solution. So if there's any part of you that's sensitive to being interrupted or helped, preface it. Important. You could also say, because this also works very well, I just want to say, I want to get through everything I want to say before we talk. So you may find when I get part through this that you want to like interject, if you could let me finish, I'd really appreciate that. If not, when people interrupt you, very calmly, it would mean a lot to me if I could say the whole thing and then we'll talk. See if you can be patient, because remember, when someone says something to you that you don't agree with or you don't like, you also want to interject to make it right. People don't like to just listen to something they don't agree with. So be prepared. People are not just going to listen all the time. They may need to be helped during this process. So you ask for what you want. Now, the next thing is happiness on both sides. This is really important, because if you say to yourself, okay, I know what I want. I know what I want. And then we get to happiness on both sides and you're like, revise what you want. Does this actually make us both happy, or is this one of those, and I will live happily ever after and you will cry? Is it one of those? Is it one of those, and I'm the boss, so I get to be happy and you deal with it? Does it end like that? Because when you look at, I want you to be happy and I want to be happy, and you look at what you're asking for and you're like, yeah, that's a match, we can keep moving. If you realize, I don't want them to be happy, I just want them to do what they're told, you're in your power struggle. And you've got some breathing. So this is the for me, for you, for us energy. Yeah. This is the both people are happy. For me, for you, for us. Okay. So now the next piece is the problem. We're usually really good at this one. This one we don't need help with. That's the problem. And so usually we start with this. We're like, we need to talk, there's a problem. and the problem goes bleh. So we want to be honest about the problem. And if we care about the happiness and we know what we want, we also understand that as we're explaining this problem, our intention is something that's going to make us both happy at the end and we're going to be okay. So we don't want to deliver the problem in a way that makes people feel belittled, guilty, shameful, which is really the thing that we do when we have a discussion with someone and we're like, we need to have a conversation because I have a problem, you're the problem, and I want you to feel really bad about this. And then when you feel punished enough and I see that you've been punished enough, then we'll stop talking about it. I don't know what I want except to see you suffer. And so let me lay it on you what the problem is. This is all self-righteousness. Like, I am so angry and I need you to feel bad. I need you to feel as bad about what you did as I feel about what you did. And so when you realize that you're about to tell your problem and the problem is being said in order to create the most amount of pain possible, you're not ready to express the problem yet. The goal is to express the problem in a way where it's like, we have a problem. This is what I want, this is what I need, and this is what's happening. I expected this and that, and instead this happened. I really desire this and that, and instead this and that is happening. When I asked for this and that, this and this happened. It's a matter of fact thing. And by the time you're ready to really tell someone what the problem is, usually you've processed it and you're saying it because you cannot ask them for what you want unless they understand what didn't go wrong. So there's an art to explaining a problem, and alpha communication does not happen in the heat of the moment. Alpha communication happens once you've had a moment to process your feelings and you've had a moment to think about what you want to say and you figured out, I think I really understand what the problem is and I really do care about both of us, and here's what I think is going to be the right way to fix this, right? So the two first parts are actually how you're going to know you're really ready to have this conversation. And it's about the long-term vision that happens beyond this conversation. And so when you're having a conversation with your partner and you know you want to be married to them forever, it really helps to be like, you're my person. I chose you, we're forever. It helps people not go into that, they're going to abandon me, they're going to leave me, they hate me, they're going to fire me, they're going to do all the stuff that put people in a spiral and they can't hear you anymore. And by the time the problem hits, they're already blinded by terror and they can't hear a word you're saying and they need to just talk over you because they're terrified. If you actually care about a person, tell them. If they're your employee and you're like, what I want is for us to work together forever. I love you. You're a part of my work. You're a part of my brand. You're a part of my legacy. Like, I don't want you to go anywhere. This is a forever thing for me. When you deliver the problem, it will land exponentially differently than if you're like, we have a problem. Bleh. And they're like, oh my God, we got fired. They don't listen the same way. And so you'll notice that sometimes when you make a power move in your life and when you've been really brought up on power, giving someone that amount of power before you tell them what the problem is like, well, will they really care? They're not scared? Yes. Because they love you. Yes, because they care about their job. Yes, because they care about your business. Yes. And if they don't, then wouldn't it be great to know that? If I give them all the power, will they still? I freaking hope so. The whole goal is that we do equal power, but different here. If the only way to keep a person with you is to manipulate them, then let them go. It's not even worth it. So how a lot of people have been brought up is like, let me put you on eggshells, then tell you what you've done wrong. And then once I've put you on eggshells and once I've told you what you've done wrong, I'm going to tell you what you've got to change. And that's the end of the discussion. That's the power move. And now you're scared and you're going to change because you're afraid, you're terrified you're going to get left, abandoned, fired. And so it's your fear of abandonment or being fired that makes you change. Just out of curiosity, if you've ever had an employee, you've had a conversation with them, it lasts 2 weeks while they're terrified. And then the minute they realize they're not being fired, they go back to the same person. Say, oh yeah, that's happened to me before. If you've ever had a partner where you've had a conversation with them and they're terrified you're going to break up with them for all of 4 days, and you get roses and dinner and all kinds of goodies, and then all of a sudden they realize you're not breaking up with them, and guess who's back, right? Because when you use this, there's an energetic match to that. So if you're going to make people feel afraid in order to change, they're only going to change as long as they're afraid. And as soon as the stability comes back, so it's not even a viable option. It's the most manipulative thing, and it's not even a viable option. So leadership wins for me. Leadership wins. Even when you use your power, you literally have to use it all the time. There's no long-term goal. There's no long-term change. There's no evolution. It literally just is, the bird has flown. The bird has flown. You're not having dessert. We're turning the car around and no one's going to Disney. It's short-term gain. Like, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Quick fix, quick relapse. So the long-term game in conversation is an energetic match for the long-term solution. And we want the long-term solution. When you tell a person, I care about you and I want you to be in my life for a long time, and you mean it, their listening of this is, okay, I also want to be in your life for a long time. So what's the problem? That feels so different than, you're going to let me go because you think of this is the problem. I need to change your perception of the problem. Or okay, I'm going to change the problem. None of that is real though. And so fear tactics and manipulation are all power. Every time you feel inside like you want to do that, power. You're not a bad person when you do that. I just want to clarify something with you. You're just conditioned that way. It's just the way that comes out the fastest. This is why it's so helpful to decide to go through these conversations in your mind before you bring them out, because the trigger conversation is very different than the thought out leadership conversation. You're not just going to change your triggers overnight. You're still going to have that first initial feeling of like, get out, you're fired. You might still have that feeling at first, but can you sit with yourself and be like, no. And those of you who are doing Femme Fatale with me, the inner work of this, which is like a lot of feminine energetics. And if, you know, the men that use this have a different way, but the woman energetics of this, I should say, because Femme Fatale is a woman program. When we do that, it's going to change your world, because there's actually tangible things for me that have changed the game beyond what I could ever express to you. And I've just like transmuting energy within my own body that's changed the game for me in a whole other way. And so there's the mental game and there's the emotional game, and leadership is both, right? It's mental and emotional. So although I'm emotional, I'm the leader. And so I've got to get myself on the right track. I either take a moment, what do I need here? It's going to be more cerebral of an experience. When you combine that with feminine energetics, it's going to feel like you're literally holding the yin yang symbol in your hands at once. Like you've got every solution in the world available to you. But this is a huge piece of the puzzle, because now you have choice, space, time, and intelligence. Because when emotions are high, intelligence is low. And so if you are trying to have an intelligent conversation when emotions are high, it's a little harder. Creating space for this alpha communication means we're moving the emotion a little bit. We're not doing this in an emotion. You're choosing to have this conversation during a more level-headed moment in your life. Okay. So the next piece is acknowledge the good. And this is the last part of the puzzle where you're going to know, I can have a conversation about this or I can't. Because acknowledge the good is where it's the energetic match for an apology. You know, when you need an apology for someone for closure and they're just not wanting to give you one, they want to either give you justifications, examples of why maybe you're wrong. They want to try to They want to try to share with you an experience that they had. They want to try to do just about anything except but apologize. If you don't start with acknowledging the good, it's the energetic match for no apology. Very little conversations go well when you don't acknowledge anything good a person has done. Because the whole time you're talking, are going to be remembering all the things that they do well, that they think you've forgotten if you're willing to tell them what you're telling them right now. And with good reason, because we do the same thing. And so if your partner tomorrow decides to tell you that you never cook dinners, you're like, no, I don't cook dinners, except I have a full-time job and a business. And also I would give the kids their bath and I put them to bed. And I also do this and this and this. What do you mean? Like, you're not going to acknowledge the one thing that's not there. You're going to look at all the things you do that are not being acknowledged in that moment. And your mind will not be open to just listening to what you're not adequate at. Your mind will be like, I'm sorry, I stopped listening past the point where you were telling me the one thing I didn't do when I literally do everything around here, right? So people also feel this way. This is why acknowledging the good is really good. So we're going to try this the other way now. So basically how it works, let's say I'm going to have a conversation with my partner. We're going to make it a romantic thing first. I'm going to have a conversation with my partner about, give me something. What's something that you would want to have a conversation with your partner about? That's important. Something that you would want. What's something you would really want your partner to do and it's really important for you? Something you'd love to be able to change in communication. So you want your partner to talk to you. We're going to start with that. So we want to have more communication, to be able to really talk. And so how might this look? It would be like, first of all, I just want to tell you how much or how far I feel we've come together in so many areas. Since we've met, I feel like this part has improved. This part has improved. You know, either you're an amazing dad. I love the way you are with the kids. I love the way, I love how committed you are to your job. Whatever it is, whatever parts you feel, you know, you cannot not acknowledge. I love how much you care about the structure of the house. Like, I never have to worry about the garbage has to go out, the recycling has to go out. I never have to worry about the snow people being taken care of, the pool needing to be opened and closed. Like, I never need to think about those things. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so aware of that. And our marriage means the world to me. And I want to be married to you forever. You're my person. You're my one. And I've been realizing lately that I feel lonely when there's something clearly wrong or not going well in your mind and you don't share it with me. Now, I want you to be happy. If you're not comfortable talking to me, I don't want to push that. I want you to feel good talking to me. And for me in our marriage, when I feel the best is when it feels like we can tell each other everything. And so I want to have a conversation with you about opening up and having more conversation with each other. Like, is that available for us? That is such a different than, you never talk to me. Well, I would probably know if you talk to me. Right? We're going to try something else. More compliments. So you would say, the first thing I want to tell you is I am so grateful for everything you do for me. I'm so grateful for the help around the house. I'm so grateful for any time I need something. I tell you, we're on it together. I feel like we're the best team. We tag team things. We do a great job with the kids. Like, things between us, they work. And you're my person. You're the one for me, like, forever. And I miss when you used to compliment me. I remember times in our relationship where I feel like compliments came so easy. And obviously I want you to be happy to give me the compliments. I don't want them to come begrudgingly. And I just remember how good I used to feel when those compliments would come easily. And I'm wondering if there's something in the way. If I wanted to recreate the energy that made those easy for you, like, can we talk about what's missing? Because I'd love to have those compliments again. Like, what do we need? There's an opening now. You used to compliment me. I'm going to karate because the teacher has a cute bum and he always tells me I'm doing good. At least someone gives me compliments around here. Well, yeah, I mean, I constantly go to the same coffee shop because I get complimented when I go there. It seems people care about me. Well, maybe I wouldn't spend so much time on social media if it was the only place on earth where people acknowledge me. So, you know, it's usually all underhanded, or it's like, do you think I look nice? Well, you could tell me. I literally just spent 2 hours getting ready. Like, you have nothing to say? I don't even want to go anymore. It never comes from an empowered place. And it's, when you think about it, it's like, I just want to tell you why I'm sad. I just want to tell you I'm in pain. And I also want you to know that you make me feel bad. And that's the limit to our conversation. But the other one, there's an opening. Now, what's difficult is that your partner might say something like, you know what, you're right. And I feel the same. I really thank you for saying some of the compliments here about what you acknowledge, but I don't think you've said that to me in 10 years. I try to do everything I can around the house, and I cannot remember the last time you acknowledged me for those things. And so I don't know, maybe there's something there. And if we have conversations like this, I can see that happening, to which you might not feel very happy about that. I do. Learn to listen. Okay, so maybe both of us have got somewhere to go with this. I'm really glad I brought it up, because I do want to make you feel this way. I want to feel this way, and I want you to feel this way. And this matters to me. So let's see. I'm going to acknowledge you more for the things you do, because I do see it. And maybe it'll change the energy. That this is what I want. Okay, this is what I want. Changes the energy. Another one was stop criticizing. So now it's the opposite. It's not, I want more compliments. It's just stop criticizing me. And so it might be like, look, first thing, I love us. I think we have the best time together. I don't laugh with anyone on earth the way I laugh with you. I love us. I love our dynamic. Like, you're my person. And I know this with all my heart. And I've realized that lately I feel criticized a lot. We laugh and we have the best time and there's all these great things. And also I feel like I get criticized a lot. And I want you to be happy. Like, if there's things that aren't working for you, I want you to be able to tell them to me. Same as if there's something that's not working for me. Like right now, I want to be able to tell you. And I feel like sometimes, I don't know if maybe the conversations aren't thought out properly, or they're not, it's like the minute you're not happy, I hear it right away. I don't know if we need to have more conversations where we just like open our heart and tell each other what we need. But the energy of receiving what's not working seems constant. And I'm starting to feel really criticized in our relationship. And I feel like it's really affecting me. Do you feel this way? Like, I'd love to talk about that with you. The energy of the next thing out of the person's mouth is going to be so different, because it's not just an attack. It's like, this really isn't working, but I love you. I care about you. I want to be together forever. I care about your feelings and I want to fix it. What are your thoughts? It's not just, but here's not working. So here's how it might work in something that's more like a business setting. So let's say, for example, I go to a restaurant that I really like. You ask for what you want. So so either in this situation was like, I'd like to have a conversation. That's the ask. So I'd like to have a conversation, either what's creating this, or it could literally be like, all I ask is that when you do have something that doesn't work, that you bring it to me with a little more context. Like, I'm bringing this to you. I've thought it out. I know I love you and I want to be with you forever. And I know it's not working for me. And like, I care about both of us. And I'm bringing it to the table for us both. There's thought brought to this. I'm not just telling you it's not working. Maybe that's the kind of conversation I'd like to have with you if you're available. Can I let you watch a video? Can you plop yourself here for a second? I'd like to make you watch something, be very helpful. Okay. So let's imagine that this is more like a workplace thing, or when you're a client. So I'll give you an example. I go to a restaurant. It's one of my favorite restaurants. I go there all the time. I love it. Every time a friend's going in this area, I'm like, go there, it's amazing. But this time I go, and it's not great. I'm going to say, I first want to say that I love this restaurant. I come here a lot, and I want to continue coming here a lot. I love this place. This time, my experience is just not the way it usually is. And obviously, I want to be a fun client. When I walk through the door, I want people to be happy. It's me walking in. And also, I want to know that when I come here, I'm going to get what I expect. And that's not happening this time. And so I'd love to speak to the manager, or if I am speaking to the manager and I've done that in advance, what do I want? And so I'd really love for this bill to not be mine today, or I'd love for an opportunity to come back for this experience to be made right, because based on tonight's experience, I don't think I'd come back. And so I'm not the kind of person that would ask for this to be free. I understand all the work that went into today, but to re-invite me for another day where maybe I would have the experience that I want, or the experience that I normally get here. I have never had a no. Because what most people say is, if you don't give me what I want, I'll never come back again. And that does not feel the same. As I love this place, I care about this place, and I want to keep coming back. And for some reason, this is not the way it usually is. I want you guys to love having me as a client. And also I want to be able to tell you when something isn't working, and today was not good. You can do this with an item on the menu, just a steak or something, like, because the truth is, when you speak to someone and you just tell them, this wasn't very good. If you say to someone, this wasn't very good, in a lot of places, they'll apologize, but they won't do anything. Have you ever had that? They'll be like, we're so sorry about that. And then your feeling is, you're not going to do anything about that? Like, I just told you this steak was raw and you're still going to have me pay for it? I just told you this is not good and you're still going to put it on my bill? Then you're offended, but the fact is you didn't ask for anything. And so if you are brave enough, because this does require confidence, courage to a certain extent, to have this conversation, and you say, look, I loved everything tonight. The service was amazing. The wine was amazing. I've loved tonight. I want to come back. Like, I've had the best experience until the steak. I don't know what happened, but this is not good. And so I want you guys to love me as much as I love this place. And also it's important to me to say when something isn't right and this is not good. And I don't want it replaced. I just don't want it on the bill. You're not mean. You're not rude. You're not awful. You're not threatening. You're just real. Now, here's the thing. If you don't care about the place, you just don't care about it, you're never going to go back. You're already so mad. You're like, I'm never coming back here. I hate it. Don't have the awful communication. Call them tomorrow when you're not so mad. Because nobody wants to make something right for a person who's not even going to give them a second chance. So there's no point in you saying, I am leaving here and I'm never eating here again, and I would like to not pay for this bill. They'll be like, what's the point? You're never coming back here anyway, so we might as well keep the $75. Bye. So it's better if you go home, you breathe, and the next day you call back and you say, is it possible to speak to a manager? Okay. Last night I ate in your establishment and I had the steak. Now, I want to tell you that I want to say something to you. I am an entrepreneur. I care a lot about people who have their own businesses. And what I want is to always give people second chances, because that's what I would want in my business. And so instead of just being mad and never going back, I prefer to say, this was my business. How would I want this to be handled? And so I would love, through this conversation, to entirely change my experience of yesterday. So what happened is I had this difficult dining experience. I made my waiter aware of it, and there was absolutely nothing presented as a solution. Now, I knew in that moment that if I spoke how I felt, both of us would feel bad, and that's not the way I do things. I always go for, you guys win and I win. And last night, I did not win. But I also knew that if I were to say anything, we would both lose. So I waited till today. What I would like is an opportunity to come back to your restaurant, the different waiter, and to experience what I think your restaurant is really about. And I wanted to have this phone call to see if that's available. If they're willing to do that, you'll have another experience. And if not, you won't go back. Either way, you would have the exact same result, except no fight, no anger in your body that you're going to end up taking out on your partner when he leaves the socks on the floor, or when they leave the kitchen cabinet open and you bonk your head because you've told them a million times that you don't want them to leave the cabinet open, or you're going to trip on her high heel shoe in the entrance and be like, how many times did you tell her about the shoe? And it's not even that you're mad about. It's the fact that you had a terrible dining experience and then you still have to pay for it, and then you're mad, and then everything is mad. And you hold this in your body. This is the thing. This anger, it eats us alive. And so when we have these moments, these outbursts of like, I'm allowed to be mad, the problem with that is like mentally you're allowed. You're fully allowed to be mad. But when we harbor anger, it actually does a bunch of bad things inside. It's like not healthy to harbor anger. And so one of the questions I love to ask myself is like, is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising my entire energetic situation? And there may be days where you're like, yes, screw it all. It's worth it. I'm mad. But you'll realize that on days where you have any kind of smidgen of space for something, you'll be like, Melanie, get out of my head. No, actually stay there. You're right. Okay, I'm going to breathe. And something else will come through. So in the Alpha to Alpha program, I have an archetype that I'm going to present you. It's a silly archetype. This may annoy the heck out of so many of you. That's all right. Annoyed this way is better than hating. And so I'm going to be very helpful to your subconscious mind. I'm going to help you rewire something in a cute, maybe you'll love it, maybe you'll be annoyed by it kind of way, but it's still exponentially better than what you experience this voice to be in your own head. We're going to rewire some identity in here. And in Femme Fatale, it's a different identity, but very similar. Okay. So this is called the finger monkey. And for me, the way I see it is when we are in our self-righteousness, we're having finger monkey moments. And when we are in our finger monkey energy, which means we're in this tiny little needing, it's the smallest little thing that hangs on for dear life energy, we tend to bring out the finger monkey in other people. So if you can imagine the tiniest little part that hangs on for dear life, the finger monkey. And so when the finger monkey in me calls out the finger monkey in you and we begin to start talking to each other, we're having finger monkey dialogues. And they usually sound like inner child conversations through an adult filter. And not because your voice has changed, that the words you say don't sound like you're a small child. But we don't recognize this because when we're in our self-righteousness, we don't recognize we're in finger monkey mode and we're having finger monkey dialogues. But when we say to people, you don't understand anything. It's the same thing as when we say, you just really don't understand me. You don't understand anything. You don't understand what it's like to be me. You don't understand nothing. You don't understand nothing. It's the very same thing as just one is like, I'm a grown-up saying this, so it's right. Whereas the other one's at least claiming,
no, I'm hanging on to my truth because my life depends on it. And you are mean and you don't understand me nothing.
And I'm holding on for dear life here because all of my power is contingent on something other than me. So I'm hanging on for dear life. This tiny littlest part of you that's still scared, afraid of that you're being seen as inferior, afraid that people don't get you, afraid that you're going to lose your power, afraid that you're going to something. When you start to show up like that, you trigger other people's finger monkey and you see it happen. They get mad so fast. You know exactly how to make people mad. As a matter of fact, sometimes in your power play, you've done this on purpose. You've literally spoken to your husband, to your friend, to your partner, to your sister, to your child in a way where you're like, you mad? Just to bug them. Because in that moment, when you're bugged and you know how to bug them,
well, it's only fair. You're bugging me, and so now I'm bugging you, and so now we're sane.
Finger monkey. When you do this, it's the smallest, tiniest, but the thing is, cutest part of you that's having an issue. And so when we're doing this personal development work, one of the biggest, saddest things I've seen is people start to hate the little self. And they're really mean to it. Oh gosh, I'm so dumb. I've been doing this work for years. What's wrong with me? I learned all this. I knew all this and I did it again. And I'm so dumb. And it's like, I'm never going to get it right. What was the point? And I didn't learn anything. That is how you speak to yourself when you forget for a moment that the part that sabotaged everything was about this big, holding on to your finger for dear life. Every part of you that sabotages you was coded from a very young age. And so if you can acknowledge that and move past it instead of thinking that it's your current identity, and I think this is where a lot of the trauma work occurs, is it's like, I relate to myself as this instead of just seeing the little place it comes from. I know exactly when I'm feeling really mad because nobody's listening to me. I remember feeling like a small child nobody's listening to. I'm trying to explain something. Nobody's listening. If I feel like that as the boss, power comes out. Hey, I'm the boss. Might as well be 5.
Excuse me, I'm the boss around here. I'm trying to say something. I'm the one that's most important, and I'm the one who says, and if I said, then I'm the one, and everybody has to listen to me because I am the boss.
But I say it with a grown-up voice, excuse me, I'm the boss around here and everybody's got to listen to me because I'm the boss. It's going to trigger everybody.
I don't care that you don't like my rules. I'm the boss. And so if I say it, that's the way it goes. With I said that was I'm the boss.
You know what? I don't really care that you don't like what I just said because I said so and I'm the boss. So deal with it. Same level of emotional intelligence, deeper voice. That's not leadership. We don't actually get what we want like that. Not long term anyway. It's the short term control. Because I said so. Because I'm the boss. Or else.
If you don't love me, because if you love me, you would do what I want. And so you are not my friend anymore. You were never my friend, because if you were my friend, you would do exactly what I want.
Well, I guess we're just maybe not meant for each other, because clearly if we were meant for each other, you wouldn't do this. Like if it were me, if can you imagine if it were me doing this? Like you would never. Clearly we're just not meant for each other.
If you are my friend and you knew you would, if I did that to you, you would be. You're copying me.
There's parts in you that come out that aren't your power. Because there's a super different vocabulary. There's a super different angle. There's something so powerful for you to bring to the table. And when you don't question your communication, the smallest, tiniest, scaredest part of you comes out like a tiny little thing. And in the minute that it opens its mouth, it's like a little cry to the other finger monkey.
I'm annoyed. Who else wants to be annoyed? Me.
You annoy me. I want to be annoyed with you. Everything comes out like a small child. And the thing that's infuriating is that you then you can't even be upset when someone else retaliates to your finger monkey dialogues, because it's like the smallest, most disempowering part of me just called the smallest, most disempowering part of you and said, hello, you want to come play finger monkeys? And the part said, yeah, sure, let's play finger monkeys. And then now you're throwing garbage at each other, mad that you're covered in garbage. There's only the conversations that come from your power or the conversations that come from your leadership. And when I talk about power in this program, it's different than the other contexts. I don't know if you can feel it, like your stance, your right, the fact that you could. It's lazy. Power is lazy leadership. And so why alpha to alpha is such an important conversation is because it's either the finger monkey in me calls up the finger monkey in you, the trauma in me calls up the trauma in you, the pain in me calls up the pain in you, the tyrant in me calls the tyrant in you, or the leader in me calls the leader in you. And so if I'm speaking to the manager of an establishment and I manage with my lack of emotional intelligence to make this person choose their power over their leadership, what are the odds they're going to want to make this right for me when they're allowed to say no with zero problem? Sorry, there's nothing I can do. Nope, nothing, absolutely nothing I can do. Isn't that sad? Next in line, please. If I manage with my lack of leadership to literally eradicate the leader in front of me and call out their smallest part of them, how can I even be shocked when I don't get what I want? I literally called forward the power play. I'm going to be insulted when I receive it. And I'm going to try to play ping pong with your power. Power. Sorry, there's nothing we can do. Well, I guess I'm going to have to tell my entire friends and social network. You go for it. You don't have many followers anyway. I'm going to tell your boss. You don't even know my name. What's your name? I'm not telling you. I'll find out. Good luck with that. Ping pong for power. It doesn't even matter. I'm leaving this establishment anyway. I'll find you the next place you go. I'll call the police. Like, how far do these ping pong games go? There's nothing good here. So if you really think about this from like a logical standpoint, when you're in your leadership, it means that you can make things right for people. But why would you want to make things right for people at your own detriment? Doesn't really make sense that we would do that, because that's not a for me, for you, for us. It's a for you, which doesn't call up my leadership. But when I think, hey, good for me, good for you, good for us, I'm in my leadership, people who come to me when I'm in my leadership and who really bring that leadership out in me because they're in their leadership, I could change the world with that. A person who comes to me who's like, look, I'm looking to do this big thing in the world. It feels like you're the person I want to do it with. I'm like, yes, 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 yes. I'm on the same page. I go to a manager and I'm like, look, I've been actually looking at many different hotels, many things, and trying to find places for my next retreat. This one, I love this, I love this, I love this. My only issue is that I didn't love it. Do you think there's a way to have me come back and give me a different experience? Or is this like the best we've got? What's the vibe? No, I'll take care of you. Shouldn't have been like that. Okay, perfect. The power in me either calls out like, I'm a very important person and this was definitely not correct. And if there's any chance of me coming here, this needs to be made right. I think we can do without it. Don't worry. We've got plenty of business. It's that part of the person that wants to come out. It's I don't need you. You can't hurt me. I mean, the power is coming out. It's I don't have to if I don't want to. Whereas the leadership energy is a totally different energy, and everyone who's a leader has it. So if a person has made it as a manager, they have this energy. If someone has made it as a head waiter, as a sommelier, if someone has made it, if someone has hired them in an empowered, reputable establishment, it means someone has recognized their leadership. You're going to be the one person who kills that today. You're going to be the one person who takes the person who has been chosen for their ability to lead and blow out their leadership spark because you didn't process something, or you didn't. It's like we get to, it really just is, we're a network of leaders on the planet. And if we learn to focus on the leadership, all of our jobs are easier. You show up in your leadership at the restaurant, they have the best night ever. You're the best client. You send your clients there. They give your clients the best thing. When you walk in, you feel like $1 million. It feels amazing. Your night's turned around. You leave there. You're in a great mood. You go to the hotel. You connect with them in your leadership. They connect with you in their leadership. You make a great connection. You're excited to go there again next time. You've got an event you want to do. It's the first place you know you want to go. They've already remembered you from last time when you're a great vibe. They're excited. Then next time there's an event, there's a spa opening. They're excited. You're the one they want at the spa opening. You make these connections. People are like, this person's really great. You connect with it. Blah, 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 blah. The life multiplies. Leadership is contagious. So is a power struggle. You get caught in no matter what. But the thing is, power versus power, fight. Alpha to alpha rise together. So every time you make this choice, you're defining your relationship with the establishment, the person. If you can actually lead yourself to choose how you're going to express yourself, you're going to change your world. Because not everyone gets 2 chances at this kind of stuff. You can literally walk into a room and they're like, oh yeah, we remember her. Oh yeah, they walked in here a couple of months ago and had a fight with the GM. Careful. And then you show up to the counter and they're just like, how can we help you? We're already ready for your crap and we don't want it. So what do you want? Sure, here it is. Goodbye. Because we have the power and we're already with our power. We don't care about you. You burned that bridge. What do you want? And when we start to have that, we become the rich, powerful people that people hate. That's how it happens. I use my money instead of my humanity to get you to get me something, to get you to fetch me something, to get you to do something for me, to manipulate you, to this, to that. And we use this when we don't have money and we want to use the opposite of that. I've had people be saying things, people saying things like, if you don't give me this, I'll destroy your reputation. If you don't do this for me, I'm going to destroy, I'm going to use my power. I'm going to use my network. I'm going to use my influence. I'm going to use this to harm you. Which part of you talking to me like that do you think is going to make me go, you know what? You're right. Let's do good things together. It's always going to be like, yeah, well, go for it. Person who gets 2 likes on their social media page. And then they're like, oh, you have no idea. I also have a huge email list. Well, sue me. Like, it will never go in the right direction if I let myself go into finger monkey dialogues with anybody. And so I have to stop the power with the leadership and say, okay, we're not going in the right direction here. I can already sense myself getting fired up. And so let's take a minute. Let me just breathe. Let me feel into what's happening. I'll get back to you. Leadership in the middle of a power play. What just happened? You'll change your life when you don't get sucked in. You'll change your life when you don't get sucked in. And there's times you might get sucked in, then you might have to have an alpha communication. And I'd be like, look, I first want to say, I actually really value your leadership here. And it's my intention that in this conversation, I can make right everything that went wrong up until this point. This is not an excuse, but I have been having a very rough time. And I took it out on you and I really am embarrassed and I apologize for that because I can do much better even under pressure. And this did not need to come out on you. I actually care about us both having a good day after this conversation. I don't want you to go home feeling all tied up. I know exactly what this feels like. I've had clients do this to me. It's a disaster. And I'm so sorry I was that for you today. I want you to feel good. I also want to feel good. All I want is for this to be taken care of. Is there any way we can fix this? You can make things right with your leadership. You can backtrack losing it with your leadership, but it only works if you're real. It only works if you're honest. It only works if you're genuine. It only works if you mean it. And so that's why the inner work is so important, because you can't come with big words and fancy intentions and finger monkey running the show. It's always going to sound the same. Finger monkey doesn't know how to say these things, doesn't know how to say,
okay, first thing, I really care about you and I think you're wonderful and you are going to be my friend forever. But when you say these mean things to me, I get really upset. And I want you to be happy when you come play in my house. And I want you to be happy when you come play in my house. So all I ask is that you be a little nicer. There's no way that comes out of Finger Monkey's mouth. That is your enlightened self. But you know when it's entirely transferable. The exact same thing you just said like a 2-year-old, you just said like an adult as if you meant it, and you think you looked strong? Yes, because it was my power speaking. I'm allowed, I'm the boss. You know nothing, you don't understand. I'll take my business elsewhere. I'm moving out. I'm going to live to grandma's house. I'm going to stay at my mother's. Where does this show up? What else have we got? There's something so much bigger inside of us, but it only comes with a reason to evolve. There has to be a reason to evolve. Michael says, I think if we are in leadership and they are leaning on power, and that makes us respond differently outside of our leadership, that's an example of our circumstantial power and a sign we need to cultivate more personal power. 100%. And so when we talk about circumstantial power and personal power, they're both important in leadership. We need both, because circumstantial power is the thing that makes you feel regulated, for a lack of a better word. You're good. There's no reason to be mad. You're fine. And putting yourself in situations like that is good for your spirit. So what does this mean? You've chosen friends you know aren't going to fly off the wall at you. You've got emotionally intelligent friends that when you're in conversation with them, you know they're not just going to flip a switch in the middle of nothing and start yelling at you. You know who you're surrounding yourself with. You've created beautiful boundaries. You've picked the best quality hotels, and you showed up with an already good energy. And you'd already have a great team, a great company, boundaries everywhere, boundaries with your family, boundaries with your friend. Your circumstances are set. There really isn't much reason that things should go wrong until someone hits you on the way and scratches your mirror. And then you walk out and you put your heel in that little hole thing, and then you slip when you're walking out of the car, and then you're mad, and then your thing rips, and then, oh no. Now the circumstances just went wobbly. You asked for a grande latte and you got someone else's order. How hard is it to... And the person who was supposed to get on the call with you shows up late, and the person who was supposed to do this changes the rules at the last minute, and somebody asks you for a favor when you've already said no. Someone tries to push a boundary. Today sucks. And now you're mad. And so you're no longer in circumstantial alignment. All you've got is the personal power. All you've got is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising my whole freaking vibe over? Because the fact is, you're right. This is why the sentence is so important. You're right. It is self-righteousness because you are allowed to be mad, and you're right to be mad, because when your heel goes in the little hole and it snaps and someone dings your mirror and they give you the wrong order at the coffee shop, when you always give everything to everyone and all you wanted for yourself was a coffee, you're allowed to lose it. Like it's not fair. It isn't fair. You're allowed. But is it worth it? Is it worth letting it take over you, and then you walk into the hotel room and everything else spirals? You're not always going to be able to control it in the moment, but sometimes you can let it land, realize it happened, and reverse. This is where apologies are the easiest. As leaders are the easiest to apologize. Power play cannot apologize, because the minute you power play, you give up your power. But leadership, you change the game with an apology.
And you know this because any person who is capable of giving you a good apology changes the game for real. The power plays, look, I'm sorry that I upset you. I'm sorry that you got upset. I'm sorry that you were offended by the evil thing I just said to you, but like, I can't help you with that. You're going to need to toughen up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I was tough on you, you know?
Okay, fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I said the mean thing to you. Okay, now, fine. Okay, fine. Said it. Sorry. I said it.
Same thing. I'm so sorry that I offended you. Okay? Same thing. Only the leader can say, I'm so sorry. And then you feel it and you're like, okay, thank you. Now, this is something, I've got another unpopular opinion about this, and this is a very sensitive thing. I'm going to tell you something very important. As a leader, narcissist is one of the most complex, complicated disorders on the planet to diagnose. And being called that is one of the most harmful, mind-bending, I doubt myself forever kind of things to say to somebody. So if you can take that word out of your vocabulary and try to find something else, it will set a lot of the planet free, because I can tell you so many people are mislabeled with things that are literally harmful to be. If you are a narcissist, you are dangerous in society. And so if people tell you that you're that, when in fact you're just so afraid of being inferior that you have an intense superiority paradox to try to make up for how small you feel, you may be so confused when someone calls you a narcissist, because it's like, if you knew how I feel on the inside, you second guess yourself even more. And then people are like, well, if I feel this small and in my calls for help, I get profiled this way, then I might as well be bad. A lot of the people that end up being the worst end up giving up on being good because they've been told they were bad so often that they're like, if I'm going to be labeled bad, I might as well be. So as leaders, our words, they count a lot. When you don't have much impact, much influence, when you don't have a big pull, you can say things and it's like, who's that person anyway? This person I barely know. This person with no influence just called me that, whatever. But when you matter, when your voice matters, one thing I can tell you is I really believe my leadership became a match for more visibility when I was very selective in what I said. Just because something was mainstream or something was just easy to say, I don't say easy to say things. And if I catch myself saying them, I course correct. And that's one of those words. If you're going to say it, you can even, if you're gonna say it, if you have to, if this is something that's really close to you and like it bothers you that I'm saying this so much, if someone in your family was diagnosed this, you feel like you've got so much knowledge about it, it feels like it's there. If you can say this person has narcissistic undertones, if you can say this person acted in a way that's narcissistic, if you can say this was narcissistic behavior, it's already about 1,000 times less bad than calling someone something. Only a person who has dived so deep into this work and who has worked with a patient for long enough to be able to check every single box to make sure it's not something else, like a personality disorder, a chemical imbalance, a destroyed self-importance that's turned into this huge ego projection to try to, there's so many conditions in this world. Only a person who has studied beyond can actually diagnose someone. So let's not. Our words have so much power. Let's not. If we can, if you can from this program, just choose your words because they matter. And on the odd chance that that person wasn't, and the influence of your words send them into a spiral, it's just not worth it. You can walk away from a person without calling them a thing. You can say, you know, there's something, this is how I would address it. I would say there's something about your way that when I'm around you, I second guess myself. When I'm around you, I feel not important. When I'm around you, I question myself. I feel like I'm losing my mind when I speak to you. That's how I feel. And I don't surround myself with people who make me feel like that. And so our relationship is over. That will get you so much further in your own truth and might actually get the person to hear something so different than you calling them something anyway. You know what the thing is? When we're together, you make me question my sanity. And I can't be around people who bring that out in me. I don't feel good in this relationship. And so I can't be with you anymore. That's a whole truth, an undeniable truth, and something that no one can fight. So let's learn to speak our feelings, because actually they matter more. Calling someone selfish, all they'll want to do is tell you all the ways they're not. But if you tell them, you know, my issue is that I don't feel I matter in this relationship. I very rarely feel I matter in this relationship. And I don't think I can be in a relationship where I don't feel that I matter. When you say to someone, you know, this person was just a selfish, blah, 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 instead of, I never found my place in that relationship. It didn't matter how good or how bad my life was. It was never about me. And it just didn't feel healthy for me to never have my place in a relationship. So I ended it. You have not said anything to profile the other person. You just said your experience. And if they were to ever get wind of that and say, I heard that you told this person that in our relationship, you never felt like you had any space for anything, you say, yes, that is true. And if I thought there would have been space for me to tell you that, I would have. But if you say, if they come to you and say, so I heard you were talking to this person and you called me a selfish this and that and this and that, and you're like, well, you were, remember the time, blah, blah. It never goes well. So instead of calling people things, call it as it is. Around you, I feel. In this relationship, I feel. No one can ever disprove that. And you're not accidentally harming someone. You're explaining to them how you feel around them, which can honestly only be helpful for a person's growth. So even in the alpha communication, when you feel like you want to be explaining the problem, and in the problem there's an insult, make sure you look at that. Like if you want to say, you're my partner, you're my person, there's so many great things about our relationship, but the problem is you're just so selfish. The rest of that doesn't matter. But you could say, there's so many things that work well, but I often feel I don't have a place in our conversations. I often feel alone in our relationship. And honestly, it was a lot for me to come and tell you about this because I didn't even know if you would care me telling you. That's how bad it's gotten for me. And I want you to feel good. I want you to be able to take care of yourself in the relationship. I want your life to be about you. I want you to have that self-care and you be the most important person in your life. I believe in that. I want that for me too. I want there to be more space for me in this relationship. And I want to talk about that with you. That's still hard to hear, but it's a world apart from you're selfish. So look at where these moments of you being allowed to say what you want to say.
You're mean. You stink of stinky fish sticks. And I'm allowed to tell you because you're stupid.
There's nothing that moves the relationship forward. There's nothing deep. There's nothing important. There's nothing meaningful. There's nothing connecting. It's like,
I am allowed to tell you,
is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising my relationship? Is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising my career? Is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising my energetic signature for the entire day? Is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising my entire relationship with this hotel, this restaurant, this client, this friend, this partner? I'm allowed to be mad. Should I take a minute? Now, this becomes harder and harder with the people you love the most when you know they're going to forgive you. And you're going to notice the people it is the easiest for you to throw things at are the people you know it's not going to compromise forever. They'll forgive me. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Are you gonna be mad forever? I didn't mean it. It's just like because you're the one who said, remember when I said that and then you said that? I only said that because you had said that. And so really it's your fault. Are you gonna be mad forever? We think we can just get out of things. Look, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have said that. I just get really upset when you say those things and then I lose it. Like, I'm just trying to do my best over here.
Look, it's not my fault. I just get really mad when you say like I can't color inside the lines. So then I throw my pencils at you because you're mean. But I won't do it again. Okay?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's not real. It's not deep. It's not powerful. It's not leadership. It's just,
I'm allowed to. Because you love me, right? Okay, let's be friends again. Don't be boring.
Leadership is, I care about us. That's why it works.
Of course I care about you. I'm sorry.
I care about you.
It's just because it made me sad.
I care about me. For me, for you. For me, for you.
I made you this. I brought you this. Say I'm sorry. I'm nice, eh? I didn't mean to hurt you. I brought you a present. These are for you here. See, because I'm sorry. You forgive me?
But I care about us is the piece that the small person of you never learned. I could hurt us. I could damage us. I hadn't thought of that. I know you're strong and I know you love me. And sometimes I forget about us because I just think about how strong you are and how strong I am and how good I am and how good you are and how we'll probably bounce back. But I don't think of the scar on us. That's the part that leadership does not forget. When I'm mad at the waiter, I forget that there's an us with this restaurant. When I'm mad at the front desk person, I forget that there's an us with the hotel. When I'm mad at the team member, the Alpha Femme team member, I forget that they're a part of the us of the company that I'm a part of. There's an us. And when I forget about the us, I'm immediately in my smallest part. It's not true that when we're in our tiniest part, we don't care about people. That's not true. We do. You cared about your mom even when you said, I hate you. Even when you said, you're the worst mom. And I want to have Sophie's mom instead because Sophie's mom is more nicer. And I'm going to go move there. And she's going to be my mom. You didn't mean that. But 30 years later, she remembers that because us was scarred. But you didn't mean that. You love your mom. Mom's best. I didn't mean it. You love me. You're my mom. You can't hate me forever. Let's make muffins. But on the heart of the mother is the scar forever. The leadership is the one where you acknowledge the scar. And that's a really hard thing to do because that feels bad. And there's a level of self-responsibility that comes with the scar, and we don't want it. So this module makes you a leader because if you're able to have this conversation, you're a leader. Every single piece of this is hard, all of it, if you mean it. And if you're willing to do what's hard in the name of us, then you really care about us. When it matters and it's difficult and you still choose us, it's written in the sands of time that you cared. When it matters and it's difficult and you bail, when it matters and it's difficult and you choose you, us never forgets that. That's why leadership matters so much in all relationships. Leadership is us. You and I always exist. Us doesn't. And you find that out when business partnerships fall apart, when relationships fall apart. You realize I will always continue on and you will always continue on, but somewhere along the line, us died and leadership killed it. Lack of leadership killed it. And so when you learn these things in your life for the love of us, something changes. in the way you are, in the way you lead, in your level of self-responsibility, and in your long-term vision understanding of the relationships in your life. Because you might say to yourself, if I want to be with this person forever, does this relationship even matter? If I want to come to this restaurant for the rest of time, does this conversation even matter? If I want to have this friend in my life for the rest of time, does this conversation even matter? Is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising and you'll find a lot of the communications are just communications you need to have with yourself. Yourself, your pain, your anger, your disappointment, and the ones that matter, then they deserve the entire alpha communication and all the work that goes with it. So what I would love for you to do is to take one of the hardest conversations in your world right now. Do the work, reverse engineer it. What do I actually want? Do I really care about both of our happiness? What's the problem in a way that doesn't throw an insult at people? Do I really care about a long-term relationship with this person? And can I acknowledge the good? And once I've done that, does it actually still feel like I need an alpha communication, or did I just solve the whole energy within my untangling of it? Or is there something important here, and can I word it? Practice one, put it in the group. If you don't know what you want, you're not ready for a conversation yet, unless you want to say to your partner, I don't know what I want, but then I want you to just ask yourself, this is actually important. If you don't know what you want, ask yourself why you want to tell your partner. Ask yourself why you want to tell your boss or your client. Like, is there someone else you can share it with? Someone who wouldn't have to hold your uncertainty, your pain, your doubt of them without knowing what to do? If you need to vocalize that, can you vocalize it to somebody else? And so you can write an incomplete alpha communication in the group if it stops there and say, I want help with what I want. I don't know. I'm going to think about it. Like, you can share your experience in the group. If it's incomplete, you can be like, I realize right away, this is my issue. But usually if you don't know what you want, the conversation isn't meant to be with the person you're trying to have it with. Because if not, it's so simple. You would tell your coach, I need you to listen. I need advice. I don't know what to do. And so that's what I want. I want to talk it through. I want to figure out what I want to say, and I want help. Those three things you can ask an external person for. But to ask the person you're about to tell has done something wrong, to hold that for you can be really harmful sometimes. Because they're like, I don't know how to hold you and me at the same time in this pain. It feels not fair for you to ask me to just listen to you and how I'm wrong and not have anything to say. Like, I don't know if I can do that. And that's understandable. So this is the coursework for today. And it's the honest to goodness, it's the most important part of this program. Because the alpha communication isn't even just about the communication. It's about the person you become before you position it ready to go. It's about all the inner work that you've done before you even open your mouth. It's about everything you didn't say that you could have, because you took your personal leadership back and you said, just because I can say something doesn't mean I should. Just because I've got the power doesn't mean I need to use it. Just because I could doesn't mean I should. It's not true. So what's the best outcome for me, for you, for us? If I care about the us, what's the conversation here? And see what comes up for you. I look forward to seeing these. Really do this. I'm telling you, it may seem simple. It's healing. The whole thing is healing. Thinking of this in advance is healing. Doing the work around it is healing. It'll make a huge difference for you. So thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate you more than you know. I look forward to our next module, sending you so much love, and we will continue this beautiful conversation tomorrow.